Okay, so now I have to ask you about sex. How much does that play a portion in living long?
Here we go. Yeah, I have an answer for that. You know, if you're over 40 and you're having sex at least twice per week, at least twice.
With the same partner?
I'm not going to comment on that one.
I love it.
You're about half as likely to die than your counterpart who's getting no sex at all.
Wow.
So, yeah, sex. I mean, in a way,
Get in the sack,
we're
peeps.
here to, get our genes into the next generation.
Dan Buettner, the man, the myth, the legend. Welcome to Not So Hollywood. You are all those things and so much more. Explorer, Blue Zone's founder, creator. Wait, you're in the Guinness Book of World Records not once, more than once. Is that right?
3 times, yes.
3 times
Yes.
for cycling. And I am the biggest fan of yours.
Oh, I love it.
I am your disciple, spreading the word about the Blue Zones. Truly. So welcome.
I'm honored to be here. Who knew that Hollywood knew about the Blue Zones?
Oh, they do now with my big mouth.
Thank you.
No, seriously. You said that it's sort of like this has become an overnight success, but really it took you 20 years.
Yes.
For the random person who's listening and might not know about the Blue Zones, quick overview if you don't mind.
Very quick. So, as an explorer, I set out to, in a sense, reverse engineer longevity. Only about 20% of how long you live are your genes. The other 80% is something else. And my team reasoned if we could find the places around the world where people are actually living to 100 or into their late 90s anyway, without disease, and we found the common denominators from all those places, we would have a pretty good recipe for longevity. And that's essentially what I've been doing now for 20 years.
So it feels like, especially being out here in Los Angeles, everybody is trying to follow a diet. When I learned about the Blue Zones, it was so much more for me about changing my entire lifestyle. I made tweaks. It's not like I was so unhealthy or like, eating bags of chips and sipping soda, but I care so much more about how I feel and living long than even, am I going to fit into a pair of jeans?
Yes.
Diets are confusing. It's all about living happy and healthy to 100. This is my goal in life. How do you accomplish that, Dan?
Well on your way. Well, I think the first thing to realize is if you're overweight and unhealthy, it's probably not your fault in America. In 1980, there were about a third as many people who were obese than there are today. There are about a seventh as many people suffering from diabetes. And that wasn't because there were better diet programs or better exercise programs back in the 80s. It's because our environment has changed. So the big insight for Blue Zones is if you want to live longer, feel better, be happier, don't try to change your behavior. That might work in the short run, but it fails all the time in the long run. Change your environment. So what we've gotten really good at is showing people how to shape their immediate surroundings so that they unconsciously make better decisions. That's the big, unconscious decisions are far more powerful than conscious decisions. And now we do that with cities as well.
I know, because I was in Florida and I was eating at a restaurant and it said, opt for the Blue Zone meal.
That's
and I was like, what? Oh my goodness.
Blushing with pride.
I love that. You're going into cities and changing the way people eat. So when you say changing environment, what exactly do you mean by that?
So we make about 220 food decisions every single day, and 90% of them are unconscious. Whether we're going to put salt on our food, whether we're going to drink a Coke or drink a water, whether we're going to take that last bite, we're going to have dessert. Most of it's rote. So we try to come in and we work with restaurants. And so you were in Naples. It's one of our Blue Zone cities. We try to get at least 30% of restaurants in Naples to become Blue Zones. So they offer half-size plates. They offer at least 3 plant-based options without any processed foods. They offer a 100-calorie dessert.
What is that? What's the 100-calorie dessert? I need to.
It might be just a tiny little brownie.
Portion size.
So most people, everybody deserves a little
Cheat?
sweet at the end of dinner. But you know, when a 1,000-calorie molten chocolate cake shows up, you're going to eat it. Whereas if you give people 100-calorie, delicious brownie, they eat that and they're happy.
Totally.
But they got all the satisfaction with none of the sort of fat.
Scott, my husband makes fun of me because he's like, you've never eaten a candy bar from wrapper to wrapper. And I was like, damn right. I have a bite. And if it's a candy bar or dark chocolate or whatever it is, it'll last me for like days because there is no need to have this excess.
Let me jump in here. Where do you stand on, this is my theory. If we, especially, and you touched on this in America, if we just ate half as much, no matter what you eat or I eat.
Yeah,
if I just cut my plate in half all day long, where would we be?
That would a long way. That would work. But most of obesity comes from the fact that 60 to 70% of everything in grocery stores is processed food with added sugars. And even so much of things that it's organic or, the healthy choice. If you ever see organic on the label or the healthy choice, you can pretty much believe it's the opposite. So it's not only quantity, it's the quality of our food. Back, when we were little kids, most of what was in the grocery store is real food. Now most of it is Frankenstein food. But
even including, to your point, and I'm guilty of it because we don't eat meat. Especially I don't. I'm almost 100% plant-based, but I do get. I'm just whatever. I'm just gonna say it's impossible. Those like little Impossible chicken nuggets or whatever. Those are maybe a better choice, but not a great choice because they're still processed.
Yeah, I think it's the right direction. I don't know if they're any healthier for you than, it's dead animal analog chicken nuggets, but, it's often a gateway drug for people. People are trying to go plant-based and they don't want to eat broccoli, beans, and rice all the time. So they can lapse into an Impossible Burger, Beyond Burger, and still stay plant-based, and still feel like they're on the program. But then ideally, these places around the world, and I'll just very quickly tell you.
Name them, please, because people don't know.
Longest lived women in the world, Okinawa, Japan. Longest lived men, Sardinia, Italy. The island of Icaria, you have 10,000 people with very low rates of heart disease, almost no dementia. Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, lowest rate of middle-age mortality. In other words, they're about 3 times more likely to reach a healthy age, 90, 95. And then here in the United States, 80 miles from here, Loma Linda, California, you have the Seventh-day Adventist community living about 7 years longer than we are.
But Dan, let's not bury the lead. They do not drink alcohol. They don't drink coffee. They pray. They're not stressed, right? Because I feel like people watching this or listening to this are going, shave the 7 years off my life. I want to smoke and drink and have fun and let loose a little bit. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, coffee is a net positive. Coffee is very much a Blue Zone beverage.
Oh, so they do drink coffee?
They don't drink coffee, but that might actually be bad for them.
Because I drink 2 cups a morning, every morning, religiously.
Coffee is associated with lower rates of diabetes, lower rates of Parkinson's disease. It's probably the number one source of antioxidants in the American diet. Now, if you're drinking black coffee, but if you're drinking a macchiato with a bunch of caramel and cream in there, it's not so good. But you can drink coffee with impunity. When it comes to alcohol, I know there's all kinds of new research that any amount of alcohol is bad for you, but I can tell you for a fact, in Sardinia and in the other Mediterranean Blue Zone in Icaria, I don't know a 100-year-old who doesn't drink.
Wait, the 4 things that you recommend people drink that are found in the Blue Zones: water, black tea, coffee, and wine.
And wine, yes.
Or spirit in limited amounts. Is that right?
Yeah. It's
because that's me. I drink every day. Not a lot, a little.
Right. I think that's, if you're drinking half a bottle of tequila, you're probably going to be in trouble. But especially the wine in the Blue Zone. We actually have a Blue Zones wine. You can Google it. But it has the highest levels of polyphenol. We know that you're drinking a little bit of wine with a plant-based meal, you're about quadrupling the flavonoid or the antioxidant absorption. It's one thing putting it in your mouth. It's the other thing getting it down to your cells. Wines can help facilitate that. It also lowers cortisol. You already talked about stress a little bit. A glass of wine at happy hour literally lowers your cortisol levels. So it biochemically lowers your stress level. So a little bit, I'm a big fan of. And even if it shaves 6 months off your life, who cares? Part of it's living well.
Living well.
Adrianna, I just wanted to, because you two are wonderfully talking about the good things, but you mentioned all these countries and cities that are doing well, but we kind of jumped over what they're doing different. Then I think we're assuming what they're doing different than the cities that aren't doing as well. So
You're saying the blue zones?
the blue zones that you mentioned, what are they doing? You said they're drinking wine and living a lot, but what are they doing that we're not doing, or vice versa?
Moving their bodies for starters, right?
Yeah, so they don't exercise. And by the way, I think exercise is an unmitigated public health failure because we just keep getting fatter. Only 15% of Americans get enough physical activity. In blue zones, they get enough physical activity because every time they go to work or a friend's house or out to eat, it occasions a walk. Mm-hmm. They have gardens out back, usually 2 to 3 seasons a year. So every day they're out watering or weeding or harvesting. And their houses and yards aren't full of the mechanical conveniences that have engineered physical activity out of our lives. So they're kneading bread by hand. They got a machete to handle their bushes out back. They're opening their cans by hand. And you think, well, big deal. Okinawans, by the way, they all sit on the floor. You meet 100-year-olds who are getting up and down off the floor 30 times a day. That's 30 squats.
Just that movement is keeping them
exactly.
younger.
It's lower body balance, lower body strength. Evolutionarily, we were moving all day long. This folly that we can sit in our offices or on our couch all day long and make up for it half hour in the gym is just plain wrong. In blue zones, they're nudged into movement every 20 minutes. They're keeping their metabolism high. They're burning more calories, and they're getting the type of exercise that has low inflammation. If you're out training for a triathlon or a marathon, I'm not saying it's a bad idea when you're in your 20s or 30s, but it's a mistake when you're in your 40s because it's inflammatory. You run the risk of hurting a knee or a hip or an ankle. And
Wait, so don't run a triathlon when you're in your...
I don't mind a 3-mile jog, but I'm just telling you, the longest lived people in the world never went to a CrossFit class. They never ran a triathlon. They don't pump iron.
What about yoga?
They don't really. There's a little Tai Chi in Okinawa, but I don't see. I think yoga. I think yoga is a great idea, but it's much better. I argue that if you can set up your home and your life so you're unconsciously nudged into moving all day long.
I'm not okay. So when I pick the kids up from school, there's not great parking, but I'll go even further down the road just so I can make it up the hill and then make it down. And for my kids as well, because I do think that those extra steps make a big difference in the long run. I want to also point out one thing, because Dan, as much as I'm obsessed with you, you're not totally saintly, right? Like we've been out to dinner before and you had a tequila or two, and last night
I was a victim.
Last night you had an even better date who you went out with, who talked you into some libations.
Yeah, there may have been some tequila, poor choices in tequila last night, but that's very off. You should have the ability to celebrate once in a while. And blue zones, most days, most meals are regular meals, but once a month they have a blowout. Ikaria, for example, they have about 90 all-night festivals between April and September where they drink all night long. Somehow they're living a long time. So there's a place for that.
So the stress, I know we've talked about this before. Stress is the number 2 killer, I think you said. I'm screwed in that area because I stress all day about everything. That really concerns me.
And she stresses everybody else out.
Yeah, stresses everybody else out too. Meanwhile, my husband, Viva Scott, smokes pot. And I'm on his case, but he's like, look at you with all the stress.
Yeah, it's
Who's
not clear,
dying first,
actually.
Dan? Tell me that.
Well, neither one of you.
The pot smoker or the head case?
You guys will go up to heaven holding hands. But no, I think we think about it the wrong way because we tend to think about these risk factors or these habits in isolation. And the reality is what really fuels a life that makes it to 100 is an interconnected web of factors that support each other. So you're doing the right thing and avoiding the wrong thing for long enough, so you don't develop heart disease or diabetes or cancer or dementia, most of which are avoidable. So what do I mean by that? In blue zones, they're eating mostly whole food, plant-based. They're moving naturally, but also because their life is underpinned with purpose. They surround themselves with a curated group of 4 or 5 people that help them do the right things. And then they live in places where the healthy choice is the easy choice. So you start to see it's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Diets always fail in isolation. I defy anybody who's listening right now, and you can DM me directly, to tell me about a diet that's worked for more than 3% of the people after 2 years.
Right. I know that
Doesn't exist.
But I just want to say, I mean, there's this whole thing with, obviously, the Ozempic and all of these shots and new pills that are really considered to be magic for people because they're dropping weight so quickly. I mean, do I even need to ask you if you support that?
No.
Of course not.
Yeah, first of all, it's already, I've seen the research on that. It only lasts a while, and then the effect wears off. And they cost $18,000 a year. And you're not necessarily getting the nutrition in your body to fuel you. Kills your appetite. So you could be eating McDonald's hamburgers and chocolate shakes and losing weight, but you're gonna be dead at 50.
Oof, that's kind of like keto. I feel like, where it's just, I mean, I just put that out there. But when you're eating such high fat and not enough
keto doesn't
fruit and
work.
vegetables, exactly.
Keto will get you in a dress in 3 weeks, but it's not going to get you to healthy age 90.
How did you become friendly with Kate Hudson?
I know her mom. Goldie Hawn is a great friend of mine. We've been friends forever, and we both circle the happiness space. We did a Blue Zone project down in the beach cities of Los Angeles, and we brought her Mind Up program in. And yeah, we've been friends for a decade. Actually, I don't know. Somehow Kate reached out to me, I think, and we've become friends.
Well, she, in my opinion, is sort of the epitome of happiness, and Goldie too.
They really are.
I'm so attracted to them for that reason. I love Kate Hudson.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm like, even if she's faking it, she's doing something right, because it is that whole like secret idea. She just attracts and exudes happiness.
The core of that is a very strong, loving family.
Is that right?
And despite all of the temptations out here, they've done such a wonderful job at being a family and getting together for holidays and gathering around a dinner table. And I don't know Kate's family that well, but I do know Goldie's. She's the consummate matriarch.
She's done something right. And I think she has it kind of on lock with the whole Kurt Russell thing. Like, they've been together forever, but didn't need to get married. Speaking of which, in the blue zones, I want to know, do you live longer if you're married or have a life partner?
Yes, it's worth somewhere between 2 and 4 extra years of life expectancy. And by the way, it's way better for the men than the women.
Yeah, so, because they get taken care of.
Yeah.
You guys are all a bunch of babies at the end of the day. No offense.
Yeah, and we'll admit it. In Sardinia, for example, we interviewed over 300 centenarians, and we found the second biggest predictor of becoming making it to 100 was having 5 or more daughters.
What?
Yeah, the guys most likely to reach 100 had 5 daughters or more. And we don't know if that's because daughters tend to take care of their aging fathers, or if it's because if you can survive 5 adolescent girls, making it to 100 is no problem. But
it's nothing. Okay, so now I have to ask you about sex. How much does that play a portion in living long?
Here we go.
Yeah, I have an answer for that. If you're over 40 and you're having sex at least twice per week, at least twice.
With the same partner?
I'm not going to comment on that one.
I love it.
You're about half as likely to die than your counterpart who's getting no sex at all.
Wow.
So, yes, sex. I mean, in a way, we're
peeps.
here to, get our genes into the next generation. And the best way to do that is, with sex.
My goal in life, one of my great goals, other than living happy and healthy to 100, it's to find your wife, right? Dan, I think you are so eligible. And I know you have a type too, but we got to find you the right woman. What are you going for these days? Like, what's your thing? What do you look for in a woman?
Well, I'm dating somebody at the moment right now. I'm quite happy. But, at the end of the day, I think somebody who shares your values, somebody who is has great habits themselves because it's very hard to, for example, go on a plant-based diet if your partner is eating meat all the time. It's very hard to exercise when, your partner is sitting around and watching TV. So I think it's so important to have somebody who's like-minded, who helps accelerate your goals as opposed to holding you back.
Absolutely. And grows with you. Because that happens a lot in marriages or relationships. I don't know if you know or if you've seen it yourself, but doesn't it feel like sometimes people are growing and the other person just stays sedentary and you're like, okay, you got to catch up a bit.
And I think that's a recipe for a broken relationship. But on the other hand, when it comes to happiness, actually you're more likely to survive as a couple if you're both happy or if you're both sad. And the combination that almost never works is one's happy and one's sad, or one's depressed and one's optimistic.
So two sad people do well together?
Yeah.
Well, I want nowhere near that. You are in the Guinness Book of World Record, Guinness Book of World Records, there it is, for cycling. I don't know if everybody knows this about you, your background. So tell everybody sort of what you did.
So I graduated from college, and I didn't want to take the same career path, career and then a house and a wife and a car. Instead, I spent the first 8 years of my professional life. I hold the record for biking from Alaska to Argentina, holding a record for biking around the world, and then a third record for biking the length and width of Africa. And
you just on the bike? That's it. Like, where would you lodge? Different places?
Wherever I just landed, we carried a tent and a sleeping bag and a little bit of food and a book and tools, and wherever we stopped.
That's what we mean about explorers, Steve.
Yeah. Now, when you're like trying to do the length and width of Africa, did you start with like a place to start and a place to finish and like a route to get there, or we're like, let's just ride like Forrest Gump and just see if we get there?
A little bit more like Forrest Gump. I mean, the idea was, the conceit was always starting at the northern extreme of the continent and ending at the southern extreme. So the northern extreme of Africa is a place called Bizerte, Tunisia, and the southern tip is Cape Agulhas. And to get across the north to south, there's essentially three routes. There's one through Morocco along West Africa. There's one along the Nile. And then there's one right down the middle, the Trans-Saharan Highway. And we carried a shortwave radio, and we listened every night to where the wars were. And then we would reroute ourselves. And the only safe route at the time, and it wasn't all that safe, was to go right down the middle of the Sahara. And we discovered about 1,100 miles into it that the road completely disappeared. And for the last 500 miles, we biked through sand. It was sort of like 100-pound bikes, and we had to carry all of our water. We got lost once.
Were people, were you being followed sort of by anybody?
We had a team of 4 people. I had 2 black guys and 2 white guys. It was right after the LA riots. My brother Steve was on the team. He was our mechanic. We had an African-American physician named Chip Thomas. And then we had a guy who was really good at language. It's a little bit like Captain Kirk's crew who gets beamed down to the planet. We had our McCoy and our Scotty, but we were 100% self-sufficient.
That is so wild.
What were you doing, Adrianna, while he was doing that?
I might not have been born yet. When was this?
This was 1993.
Okay, fine. I was 13. Well, I was 12. But still, so I was making out with boys, lots of them. But seriously, it's...
Your own way of training, I guess.
Different ways of training. But you've seen so much and done so much. I wish that I had the balls to do a small portion of that. Not necessarily biking, but... take a backpack. I mean, I guess it's harder now with children and a family, but go kind of take that one-way ticket and go around the world and do it.
It's so rewarding, though. And you don't necessarily start by biking across Africa, but you define your dream trip, even if it's just 2 weeks.
What was the craziest thing in all your travels? Can you pinpoint sort of like one of the craziest things you've witnessed? Scariest moment, any wild stories that come to mind?
Or maybe went too far. Like, maybe I've outdone myself.
I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, we were, the Congo is half the size of the continental United States, and we essentially, the roads disappeared, and we were on sort of game paths. I remember we got stampeded by a hippo one night. It trampled one of the tents.
Oh my God!
I got this type of very poisonous snake. They call it the two-step mambo. Took a strike at me and missed me. Thank God, I would have been dead. I got in the area called the Siskai. For some reason, I was talking to these local guys, and some tribesmen, wearing this headgear and this carrying a club, walked across the street and with this sort of overhand lop, whacked me over the head and knocked me out for just a second, and I woke up to blows.
Whoa!
And there was no reason for it. And I had this mace in my front pack that I use for dogs, and I maced everybody and biked out of there. And that was a time I could have been killed. But I'm probably giving people the wrong idea, because this was 8 years, and I just said the 3 most dangerous things that happened to me. Most of the time, it was beautiful, and I woke every day with the road unfolding, and 99 out of 100 nights, some locals were inviting us in to either pitch our tent or into their house, or feeding us meals. So
proving that humanity's actually good.
The world's a beautiful place.
Well, you're leading me to this. I have several questions. Who, me? Questions? Few faves with Dan Buettner. Favorite beach?
Megan's Bay in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.
Why is that?
It's a 3-mile or a mile-long beach that is surrounded by tropical forest and virgin sand, and the bay itself is like a giant swimming pool. I used to live there.
Favorite bike path? Or in your case, it could be no path.
I think the best place to bicycle in America, believe it or not, is western Wisconsin near the St. Croix River Boulevard. It's like a roller coaster. The hills aren't so steep that you can't, the agony to get up to them, you can keep momentum going, but you're sort of weaving through an American Gothic of farms and maple forests and the river. And
you're still biking today, right?
I bike all the time.
Yeah.
I just bike through Vietnam.
Can we say with who?
Sure, yeah.
He just biked in Vietnam for 10 days with Woody Harrelson.
And Matthew McConaughey. And
what? Yeah. And Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't think they'll mind me saying that.
How did that start? Like,
was
hey
there
guys,
a lot of
like
right?
There's a little bit of that. But, those guys have public personas, but they're actually wonderful. I think the best part of those trips were at night. We had what we call Jeffersonian dinners. And, men of a certain age, you women you're so good at socializing. And we have this loneliness epidemic in America. It doesn't hit women nearly as bad as it hits men. And we actually had 13 guys, of varying, some guys are completely anonymous, but, they were all had something wonderful to offer. And the beauty of it was this sort of congealing of men who were connecting. We're all middle-aged, and, we all have families, and we all have struggles, and we all have successes, and we all could learn from each other. And to do it on the road as you're having a new experience in real time, digesting it at night and exchanging ideas, in my opinion, there's no better way to spend your resources and your time.
I imagine. And what's the drink being poured around the campfire?
Usually it was wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we actually weren't. We stayed at regular places. This was an African truck stop.
That's shameful, Dan. You were not pitching tents and riding your bike through the woods.
How did that start? Is that like a text between guys like, hey, Matthew, you want to go for a bike ride through Vietnam, or like road trip? Like, what is that?
Yeah, man, we've been on a few adventures together. I met him at a Google Camp event, and we've been friends ever since. And we go on adventures once in a while. I'm good at organizing expeditions. That's what I do. So that's what I offer. And
see, everybody wants to be Dan's friend. It's because of his brain and beauty. Okay.
I'll take that.
Your favorite U.S. restaurant?
Jelena's right here in Abercrombie. I think it's the best.
You love it there?
Without a hesitation.
Favorite hotel or resort? It could be around the world.
Favorite hotel and resort? There's an Ngorongoro Crater Lodge, which looks like Antonio Gaudi and Salvador Dali got together, smoked a joint, and designed this beautiful sort of adobe 5-star hotel right on the rim of this crater that has the highest concentration of big wildlife in the world.
Where is this?
It's in Tanzania.
Wow. I need to go there.
Just waiting
Meal
for
for breakfast.
you. Sardinian minestrone,
I know that.
which is what I have almost every day when I'm home. And it's I found the longest lived family in the history of the world. 9 siblings, collective age 841 years. They had the exact same soup every day of their life, and I got that recipe.
Lunch?
Well, lunch, I usually don't eat until 11, so that's kind of my lunch.
Because you're doing the intermittent fasting
Yeah,
for the
sort
most
of,
part.
yeah.
Your splurge. I know the answer to this too. What is your splurge?
Maybe you tell me.
Potato chips.
Oh, yes, I do have a little weakness for potatoes. So the secret is, and here's the secret for I think most people, everybody ought to be able to splurge on what they love. I truly believe that. Just don't bring it into your house.
Right.
You reduce consumption by about 60%. So if you love ice cream, go out and have an ice cream. But if it's sitting in your freezer and you're sitting around watching one of your TV shows, you know, you'll have a few bites and it will call
stop.
you, have a few more bites, and you know, by the end of the night, it's often gone.
It's like he's watching me.
I feel like but Dan is always on one shoulder.
Yes, I am.
Dan is always
watching.
on one shoulder. You know, and then I've got the girl who
Just observing though, not judging.
No, I know you don't judge.
In a better way, though.
I wanted him to quiz me on the blue zones. Do we have
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
minute?
Go.
Can we do
I'll
it?
shut up. Go. We
Okay,
have 1 minute. 1 minute.
Give me 5 blue zone questions and let's see how I do.
Okay. What is the cornerstone of every longevity diet in the world?
Beans.
That's it. Bing,
Bing,
ding,
bing,
ding,
bing.
ding. All right. What does ikigai mean?
Your purpose.
Ding, 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 ding.
Woo!
What is the best form of exercise for most people?
Walking.
Bing, ding, ding, ding.
Woo! Give me something hard.
Okay, in Okinawa, they have this a committed social circle, group of friends. What do they call that? It's a hard
Oh,
one.
Jesus, Dan.
Starts with an M.
An M?
Yes.
That, I don't know if I know that. It's community and, but what?
Moai.
Moai. Okay,
Yeah.
give me another one. I want to wrap on a good note.
Wrap on a good note. Okay. What is a daily ritual that helps relieve stress in any one of the blue zones?
Well, I would say sex. Am I right?
I mean, it works, but I'm not sure that's a blue zone.
Okay, a daily ritual that helps. Not walking. We already said that.
give you a
prayer. No, but I mean, whatever. Okay, give me a hint.
I'll give you a hint. It often happens at 5 p.m., even here in America.
Drink.
That's right. Happy hour.
Glass of wine. Woo!
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. It ain't bad.
Well
Give us a
done.
little
Well
help.
done. Well done.
If I had a blue zone star, lick it and put it right in your forehead.
Dan Buettner, I love you to a bazillion more. Thank you
This
for
was
coming.
amazing.
I loved it. Anytime.
I love you. You're my favorite person.
I love you
ever,
right back.
Basically.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say that I'm like you. I think it's amazing, and I jump right in, so I'm like the easy listener. But I would say that even if you didn't, it's just as fascinating to hear someone talk about this stuff.
Well, also what you guys didn't hear or see off camera is that we were basically huddled around Dan afterwards listening to more campfire stories. But he just recently did a 10-day silent meditation. I was like, so what exactly do you mean by that? Do they talk to you and you just don't really? He's like, no, you don't talk to anybody. You just do it. I'm like, wait, that sounds crazy. I would never want to do that.
I got stumped at like 10 days, and
10
then
days.
when he broke it down,
It sounds like jail.
there's twice that there's 5 hours that you're just meditating.
on
You're
floor.
not even moving.
I'm like, can I get a drink with that?
That's 10 hours a day.
That's terrible. I mean, it's like monks. What monks do.
Yeah, but I actually am incredibly intrigued by it.
And in awe, because it takes a unique person to do that.
Isn't that what Aaron Rodgers just did?
Did he?
No, he did like 3 days in a dark room or something.
I don't know, but that makes sense because the thing is, it's all about, we stuff so much trauma And it just slowly starts to come out when your brain slows
He
down.
said
That's what Dan
everybody
says.
cries in this
Day 2 and day 8.
day 2 and day 8. Everybody cries. That's so interesting.
I'd be crying at day 2, like hanging from the rafters. Let me out.
The one thing that he said, I'm just bringing it back to, I was thinking about my daughter. My kids and Letty laugh because every time I go into a parking lot, I mean, it's a joke now, but it's really true. I park in the first space farthest away. And I'm like, I got the space. I got the space everybody wanted. Look at all the room I got. Look at all the land I got.
You park furthest away from where you're
Furthest
going.
away. And
Good
they're all
for
like,
you,
Dad,
Steve.
they're all like, Dad, there's a space up there. I'm like, we're going to park here. We'll be inside before all these cars are here. That's
So
how
you're not doing it for the extra steps.
No, but it's what he said too. Byproduct of it is you're getting more exercise. But I sort of am doing it for the steps because I always say like, girls, we have legs. Like park the car. We're going to go walk inside and we will be inside before the person sitting there in the car.
Right. I love that you do that as well. It's so important.
Also, he's, the fact that it almost just blew by. He just got back from biking in Vietnam with McConaughey and who else was it?
Woody Harrelson.
Oh, Woody.
And he had tequila with Woody Harrelson last night. He's like, I had too many. I would like to be sitting there at that dinner with the too many tequilas.
I just love.
Although I threw up last week
McConaughey.
from too many tequilas.
Oh,
I
God,
know.
it was
I'm
a tough
done.
night for you.
I'm done with hard alcohol. Our relationship is on the fritz. Are we done?
I think we're done.
Okay.
We got stuff to do.
Bye
Rock and roll.
bye.